Watch what's approaching, the supreme moment. Reality striking closer than it seems, don't it? Go ahead, it's for the taking if you want it. If not, the dream dies and you'll be forever haunted. Then confront it.
What's good? So, as soon as this unit's stats and information came out, you know I had to test this guy out on Super Battle Road because the passive skill is such a great asset for this type of setting. And for those that are unaware, let's just go ahead and cover the stats, but just overall narrative or summary, this guy is ridiculously good on Super Battle Road because of the passive skill. And what the passive skill is essentially on top of himself getting Key +2 attack and defense increase of 150%. He also has a high chance of stunning all super type enemies after receiving an attack, and then a high chance of turning into Giant Ape when HP is 50% or less for one time only. But again, the second part of that passive with a high chance of stunning all super type enemies after receiving an attack, that pretty much essentially means whenever he gets attacked, that is a good percentage of all the units on the field potentially getting stunned. And that is equivalent of 40% chance. However, it is only for one turn, but as you saw, it essentially eliminates all the attacks coming from you. And because this version is a 55% potential, I scaled it down a little bit to the extreme physical type versus the super intelligence type Super Battle Road. So I figured it'd be an appropriate setting to test this out. But the concept and format would essentially be the same for any other categories that this unit would apply on, whether that's the extreme type versus super types or pure Saiyans, I guess is one I'm thinking is one that currently exists, as well as a category stage for Super Battle Road. So it's quite ridiculous how good this unit actually is when the passive skill kicks in, because like you saw before, I mean, if it kicks in, you're pretty much eliminating one whole turn where attacks are incoming. Now that puts him in harm's way potentially because he does have to receive the attack, and you do have to kind of put him in a position where a lot of the attacks are coming. But if you do use, defense increase items or damage reduction items, you could easily bypass that little bit of an issue, because in the grand scheme of things, it's going to make things a lot more worthwhile to where he gets attacked and then ends up stunning all the enemies on the field. Now, keep in mind, it is strictly with super type enemies, so in most cases, you are going to be fighting super type enemies on a couple of variations of the Super Battle Road stages. I just chose the extreme physical type versus the super intelligence because with a 55% potential, obviously he's not at his greatest, but it's a good enough environment to where you could easily test out his passive and see how effective it actually is. Of course, it's the Grade 8 mode, so again, that is another way to potentially conserve HP levels, especially if you have potential levels toward additional attack or crits with this guy. You could easily shred some HP down while it's in the transformation mode or Giant Ape mode or whatever you want to call it. So there is a lot of built-in skill sets with this guy that just makes him such a good unit for Super Battle Road. And key +2 attack and defense increase of 150%. That is a pretty big boost to himself. And of course, this guy falls into a variety of categories like Giant Form, Pure Saiyans, Time Travelers, Super Saiyans, DB Heroes, and whatnot. But again, I just wanted to test this guy on any sort of Super Battle Road setting just to see how often that passive skill activates. So let's take a look here if it actually kicks off with the enemies getting stunned or not. So yeah, immediately with that attack received, both enemy units are stunned. So you're essentially, at least for this turn, you're not going to be dealing with any damage, and then you pretty much have to apply as much damage toward eliminating the enemies as quickly as possible. And then come next turn, you can kind of plan things ahead, and whether you need to use damage reducing items or defense buffs or whatever the case is, you could easily plan ahead. But I mean, essentially, you're eliminating so many attacks coming your way. It's going to conserve HP by a tremendous amount, and who knows what other category stages are going to come out in Super Battle Road in whatever setting. I believe Super Saiyans is not available as a stage right now. Time Travelers, I'm pretty sure it's still not available as a category stage in Super Battle Road. So there are a lot of other areas where this guy could potentially be an opportunity to help out. Like, again, this is strictly with super type enemies, but even if it's a mixture between super and extreme types, and I don't even know if that that actually is the case. Maybe it's one type or the other, typically in every battle setting on Super Battle Road, but it's crazy. I mean, even on Giants category, he could come into play as well. So there's a lot of interesting stuff with this guy, and he's pretty damn good. I mean, for a lack of better words, this guy can definitely help out quite a bit. I was running through this last night testing out, and it made things a lot easier, honestly. I mean, you do have to put him in a position early on, the first slot most likely, where a lot of the attacks are coming, because once you get attacked and you're able to stun the rest of the enemies, like all those other attacks, like for example, if this was a rotation and you got 2 attacks incoming in the first slot, you've got like essentially 4 other attacks in the other slots in the rotation, and those can be eliminated from this setting. You know what I mean? So it's pretty crazy how they built in his skill set, and it's tremendously helpful. If you're pulling on the banner or whatever the case is, like, and you do get a copy of him, he definitely does add a lot of value in certain settings. Now, I haven't tested him out on the extreme type versus super types or the Giants category stage of Super Battle Road, but I assume the concept is pretty much the same. It's just a matter of how much more damage you'll end up taking as part of the enemies being a little bit stronger. So along with not having type advantage, but essentially, the concept itself doesn't change. The formula doesn't change. So we have 3 incoming attacks, a bunch in the second slot after Broly attacks. So let's see what happens here. All right, 3 attacks received, and then obviously got stunned. So high chances of 40% chance, and on average, like after multiple attacks, your chances are likely very good that the enemies will be stunned. And again, you're gonna save so much in HP levels, because once you take the hits with the Cumber unit, after that you're pretty much golden. You know what I mean? It's crazy how they built this guy's skill sets. It really is. Like, honestly, in the past, the Dragon Ball Heroes collaboration banner is more or less like a collector's item type banner, where it's once a year and you would summon on it if you're like a real collector type deal. But lately, the past 2 years, they've actually made the units quite good. And this one in particular, this banner in particular, they actually did make the units like extremely good. There's so many good units off of that banner, it's ridiculous. So it's it's kind of at a tough time where you have that collaboration banner, and then you have potentially a Dokkan Fest at the end of the year, and then you have the Christmas most likely double race banner, and then you have potentially the step up banner on New Year's, and then 5-year anniversaries coming up for JP. So that schedule is like at a pretty difficult time. If you're like a free to play type player, it's very difficult, but at the same time, it might be worth it in some regard. There are a lot of good units off of those banners, so yeah, it's a little bit of a tough one, but at least from this Cumber unit, he is definitely very good on the Battle Road settings. That stun super type enemies based on attacks received is very, very good. Not only that, 150% boost to attack and defense is also quite high for this type of unit, and key boosting units as well. In terms of links, I mean, he's got Super Saiyan, the Saiyan Lineage, Prepare for Battle, Shattering the Limit are all pretty common links. Saiyan Roar is, of course, a 25% increase to attack, but only few units have that, but it's not really, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a priority item. You could run them on a variation of teams and, kind of bypass that 25% boost, honestly, if you need to, but the more importance lies with this unit when it comes to the passive itself of, again, just the ability to stun enemies, the entire enemy field based on receiving an attack. So it does make things quite easier, and it helps out tremendously. So that's probably the biggest takeaway with this unit. Yeah, it would be pretty interesting to test out the various Super Battle Road settings. I mean, look at all the attacks coming up. So go ahead and apply that damage reducing item if you feel like you're going to take too much in damage. You have all those attacks coming. Chances are one of those is going to kick in the passive where everyone else gets stunned. You know what I mean? So let's find out. I mean, we do have a Dokkan mode here as well, but let's see what happens. 1, 2, 3 attacks. Third attack already stunned out the enemies, and then you don't have to worry about any attacks coming up, and you're pretty much golden. So it's crazy how good this guy actually is on Super Battle Road. It's honestly quite phenomenal. Yeah, I've never really seen like a passive like specifically so good on a certain scenario. It's ridiculous, but yeah, I mean, the biggest, I guess the takeaway for this unit from my testing with Super Battle Road is he is highly efficient and he is a proficient killer when it comes to this mode. That's probably the best way to put it. I mean, yeah, I mean, I did use items, but in certain cases probably could have been avoidable. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, this was a pretty straightforward run on Super Battle Road settings, so hopefully you got a glimpse of what his abilities are and how good this unit actually is for Super Battle Road. So as always, I do appreciate you watching. Again, thanks for checking the video out. Hopefully you enjoyed it. As always, I'll catch you guys later, I guess. All right, peace out.